Yes, a lot of Nigerians are still basking in the euphoria of our Independence Day celebration. 61 years of nationhood. Yes, we have come a long way, and that needs a celebration. Even though a lot of people also, some critics will say, there's nothing really to celebrate given the challenges or contemporary challenges we are faced with in the country. But trust me, you just need to see what happened at the Eagle Square yesterday. You know, it was so beautiful, so colorful, and so, you know, a lot of performances that represent our ideal, you know, of a nation, the celebration, you know, that really, you know, brought out our unity in diversity. And these are things that we need to celebrate, because no nation can really develop without peace and unity. Welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal, Africa's biggest deal. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. And trust me, today we are going to be looking at our journey so far. How well have we fared? And of course, I have joined me in the studio
Ayuba Tete. Welcome to Africa's biggest deal, Weekend Deal. And happy 61st Nigeria. And just like Suleiman said, people tend to, misunderstand the fact that Nigeria is relatively young.
Yeah.
You know, compared to other countries that are 200, 100, 300 years old and everything. So, you know, but then in comparison to other countries like maybe the Asian tigers, you would say, okay, we are lacking in one or two things, but still we have fared. So today we're going to look at the good, the bad, the obstacles, the challenges, and of course, the way forward. Welcome, Nigeria. Welcome to Weekend Deal.
We are going to be looking at our journey so far as a nation. 61 years. I read somewhere about one essay competition saying 61 years, no be more. Trust me, we have come a long way. But Francis Obie actually put together this background report to set the pace for our conversation in the studio. So let's go there.
As Nigeria celebrates our 61st independence anniversary, Weekend Deal beams a satellite on the leadership question and the quest for national development, because getting leadership right at all the levels have been a recurring debate since independence in 1960. So, how do leaders emerge in Nigeria? How effective is the leadership recruitment process?
If you take a cue from what was in the early 60s when we had independence, it was more or less of getting people who were determined to lead, Nigerians who were competent, who were committed, who were ready, who were prepared both in spirit and in physical and intellectual strength to impact on their country. People who never waited for the goods of the country to come to them. They were all thinking of what they can do for Nigeria rather than thinking of what Nigeria will do for them. Those are the kind of people we had, the Azikiwe of the world, the Tafa Balewa of the world, the Nwoke Ogokoye, and all these people, Sal Alba Nikokwa. These are people who went to study, prepare themselves for leadership. But today, people don't prepare themselves for leadership. They just jump into leadership. And so in Nigeria, for you to become a leader, you need three things. Today, as it were, three things. And that is one, money. Two, money. Three, money. If you have money, you can become a leader. Leader over those who have the intellectual knowledge to even advise. And so in Nigeria today, the leadership recruitment process is so poor. It is based on mundane things, based on material gains, based on corrupt practices. And so it is like garbage in, garbage out.
The roles of leaders in any given organized society are vital for the development and sustenance of such society. Also, leaders are expected to have a clear vision and well-articulated agenda on how to ensure that followers key into this agenda using the instrument of mass mobilization and effective communication.
The quality of leaders we had then and what we have now, they are incomparable. They are just what they used to say in those days. The difference is clear. That's what 7 Up used to say in those days. What we have today are accidental leaders, people who just find themselves in position of leadership, who are not ready, who don't even know the wherewithal, who are not prepared for it. They just find themselves there and they mismanage the opportunity. But then, in the past, in the good old days of Nigeria, Nigerians get into leadership position through cognitive performance, through evaluation, based on empirical experience that you can say for sure that this person is qualified and ready in mind and in spirit to deliver the goods. And we've seen that those persons who found themselves in leadership position they did very well. Look at all the states where we had old-time governors. If you go to Lagos State, for instance, if you talk about superstructure in Lagos State, you cannot take away the Latif Jakande of this world. If you go to Benue State, you can't take away the Apeaku of this world. If you go to many other states, the whole thing you find there, the relish of things you see there, they are things that our good leaders of those days did. But today, what you see as big buildings, gigantic skyscrapers owned by individuals.
The National Council on Development Planning recognized the lack of stability and continuity in programs by succeeding governments as the bane of Nigeria's stunted growth and development. However, since the inception of President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration in 2015, the story is different as he has been able to complete ongoing and abandoned projects by previous administrations.
If you talk about projects that he has to take, you look at the Nigerian rail system. He inherited some of those projects. He has done very well in that project. If you look at the construction of roads, federal highways, dualization of roads, Lagos, Makurdi, Enugu, wherever, he inherited some of those projects. He is doing exceedingly well. If you look at some of the superstructures around the country, he is doing exceedingly well. He has not deliberately cancelled some of these projects, except for the controversies in NDDC that appears to be based on corruption and things that the president was not really very clear about, which he had to put a stop on. For him and his style of leadership, without being immodest, one would say, particularly myself, that the president has shown leadership. He has shown good and quality directives for Nigeria, save for the security challenge and the sudden economic downturn that we have today.
Notwithstanding, Nigeria has not been immune to challenges facing countries on the continent. Corruption, misappropriation of public funds, electoral malpractices, insurgency and terrorism have devastated its capacity and weakened its moral fortitude to lead the continent. As we mark this day, promoting unity in diversity cannot be overemphasized, so all hands must be on deck towards making Nigeria a better and greater nation.
This is the only country that we have. We found ourselves here not by accident, but by divine inclination. And for the fact that through these unseen powers, we have come from different races, different tongues, different colors, and have come to form a country, an entity called Nigeria. We should appreciate this country as we do for any other country. We should celebrate our country and do all that is humanly possible to ensure that we secure our lives, our properties, and build the future that we want to see in any other country.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on Nigeria's independence 61 years after.
Thank you, Francis, for that backgrounder, and thank you very much for setting the tone of today's reports. And we'll go straight to the first report from the Lagos Network Center, Nigeria at 60 and her developmental challenges. Let's have it.
61 years down the line was like the dawn of a new day for Nigeria, illuminated with so much joy and freedom at independence. Nigeria's per capita income before independence was about $1,220 per capita, with a population of 50 million. Presently, however, we are over 200 million with $2,450 per capita income. This is Lagos, the hub of commercial activities and domain of infrastructures in the country. More aptly put, the economic nerve center of Nigeria. How have we fared in terms of economic and infrastructural development?
As independence, agriculture contributes 63% of our GDP. Today, agriculture is contributing less than 25%. So you can say we have diversified. Take the telecom. The telecom during our independence contribute less than 1% of the GDP. Today, telecom and the ICT contribute 18% of our GDP. So you will see there is serious changes and there is serious development going on. The first regime that spent 9 years, we had 3 development plans. And during that period, we have seen a lot of development. We witnessed a lot of manufacturing, car assembly, many companies and industry. I can tell you, if that plan could have been allowed to work today, we less import than what we are importing.
We used to have the rail services carrying goods and carrying people. We know that went down. We know that that's now being revived, and we know that we've learned our lessons, and we'll be able to ensure that we have a more sustainable system with the rail. Same thing with the waterways as well. We're seeing a lot more even with the waterways currently.
In spite of the fact that the Asian tigers who gained independence at the same time as Nigeria have left us behind, we have nonetheless witnessed a tremendous improvement in the transportation sector. Experts bared their minds.
Within a few years, we have 321 track length in Takbe Wari, double track, about 300 and something track length, Lagos Ibadan, then Abuja Kaduna, you call it 187. By the time you put loop line siding and this thing, we're about 200. So if you add that, we're about 1,000, which means within this free period, we have done almost 25% of what we have done for the last past 20 years. We have seen a lot of massive development, and unfortunately there is no free fund anymore.
Nigeria is blessed with the waterways that is linked to several states, where you can link one state to another state from north to south to east to west. Lagos State has taken the bull by the horn.
Though we have made a substantial progress in transportation vis-a-vis infrastructure, we are still backwards in terms of growth in economy and infrastructure, especially in the manufacturing sector. What are the factors responsible for these inadequate provisions?
There was no sustainability and there was no maintenance culture imbibed.
Today in this country, we have over 22 million cars driving in the country, but we don't have a single tire manufacturing. One of the infrastructures that accelerate development is transportation. Transportation both in water, rail and road. Not only that, when you need power, electricity. And when you look at these two sectors, you know we are in serious deficit. Today, we have our children that they can ride 2 trains, the first in the West Africa, from Lagos to Ibadan.
As we celebrate 61 years of independence, stakeholders in the private and public sectors must recognize that infrastructural development is the bedrock to facilitate speedy economic development and a will to drive the realization of the federal government's economic diversification agenda.
Well, you heard the mission of Asian tigers there, and the place of Asian tigers in development studies today. It's very, very key, because as recently as 1960s, they were considered as third world countries. And now look at how much they have achieved, you know, as individual nations there. But some have actually attributed our problem, our development challenges, to leadership quality, that we have not been fortunate, you know, as a nation in terms of leadership recruitment and all of that. And talking about leadership recruitment, that is exactly what NTA Ibadan looked at in this next feature.
Independence is said to be the state of being able to support oneself without help of others. Nigeria as a nation got our independence as a sovereign nation from Britain on 1st October 1960 with numerous political actors like Herbert Macaulay, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Tafawa Balewa and Ahmadu Bello playing significant roles. Looking back at 61 years of Nigeria's independence, though the nation seems to make a positive headway in terms of governance, finance, security and so on in the initial post-independence era, but got it wrong along the line with political indiscipline and reckless spending, which culminated into numerous coups d'etat, which stunted Nigeria's growth as a nation compared to other nations that got their independence in 1960, like Singapore, Malaysia, and so on, who are making giant strides in their national development. It has often been argued that the greatest tragedy bedeviling Nigeria as a nation is bad leadership. Then, to avert this problem, what are the attributes any candidate aspiring for leadership position should possess to move the nation to enviable heights?
The type of leaders we should vote for are leaders who are trustworthy, leaders who are willing to make decisions for the betterment of the people.
When it is time to vote, I will encourage people to not sell their votes. I will really encourage that, and people should vote for credible leaders.
It should be a leader that cares.
In choosing political leaders in the country, the major factor to achieve this aim are the political parties, which often serve as a vehicle to attain political goals of the aspirants. What are the recruitment procedures of choosing candidates, and do the political parties put into consideration how visionary and nationalistic disposition of who emerge as the flag bearer of their parties will have on the nation at large?
All aspiring leaders must realize that in the political party, there must be internal democracy, where people are free to say, this is what I want, and you allow them to go and compete. And the party must be able to educate their aspirants that you are going to face a greater challenge. Whoever will not allow our party to lose must emerge. So if we are able to regulate that area, the hope of the masses in voting will be higher. All leaders must realize that there are examples in the Bible and the Quran of those people that have led. Those that were credible, God was always supporting them. All leaders must realize that they are accountable directly to God. They are representing Him to serve people. And that you must use the principle of justice and equity.
Respondents opined that for Nigeria to attain a glorious pride of place among Committee of Nations, the citizens have a positive role to play by making sure that they vote for candidates of their choice, eschew vote buying, making sure that their vote counts, and the strengthening of various institutions like law enforcement agents, electoral commissions, and so on, thereby making them incorruptible, will go a long way in choosing the right leaders to pilot the affairs of the nation to enviable height.
Well, there you have it, and trust me, for any nation to achieve that, status of development, it must be guided by good leaders. And talking about leaders, we have one join us in the studio in the person of Ita Inang. Senator Ita Inang is actually the special assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on Niger Delta affairs. You're welcome to our studios. And happy independence.
Happy independence.
I saw you yesterday at the Eagle Square, and God, you need to, maybe you needed to see your picture. How excited you were, given all the cultural display, the unity and diversity and all of that.
Yes.
But Senator, I'm wondering, yes, it was a powerful, presentation yesterday, having different cultural groups from different cultural backgrounds, from, six geopolitical zones in the country coming together, celebrating our oneness as a nation. But today you have different groups everywhere representing Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, North Central, and all of that. Is that, something good for the nation, given the crisis we're, facing as a nation?
Well, I think this is called, I think they call it nationalism or ethnic nationalism. It's not good, and it's not the spirit in which we came together as a country in 1914, in 1960, and all this. It's not the spirit of the struggle for independence. It's not. And of course, one of the things that was lacking, and I wasn't really impressed, was that, I was really emotional about it, was that when we were children, one of the things we looked forward to was 27th May and 1st October. And in 1st October, for 27th May, you'll be looking forward to your rubber slippers, your white socks, your mother or your father must give you a new uniform. They must put starch. You must find out, you try to get excited. That was an excitement, but it's no more. It wasn't there yesterday, and some states in the south had it, a few of them, but most states in other parts of the country didn't have it. I even saw some governors in the Federal Capital Territory, they were there, not at Eagle Square, but they were there. It didn't resonate through the whole country. So there's a lot lacking, and we need to go back to patriotism, leadership. We need to go back to plan for this country.
Would you say, given all that is happening in the country, that we are actually living the vision? Are we interpreting their visions, their aspirations, as the founding fathers?
Well, I will say that we are self-governing. I will not be comfortable enough and honest enough to say that we're independent, because a self-governing country is a country where the people are the people, where the people and the citizens are the people running their own affairs. But as an independent country, is a country where they are independent economically, financially, agriculturally, product-wise, they're independent culture-wise, they're independent in sustaining their own economy. Now, in years back, we were able to produce our petroleum product. We refined. Today, we have collapsed our naira by using a great part of our foreign reserves to import refined petroleum product. That is not a character of independence. Today, in years past, we used to have enough of groundnut, enough of rice, enough of everything. We were exporting. We were a reference in West Africa. Today, we are not producing. But for the strength of character and the effort of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, who would come to say, look, we must produce what we eat, we must grow what we eat, and consume what we produce.
What is that treatment, that immediate treatment that the country can be offered right now?
The immediate treatment we need is going back to production, going back to address the citizens we left behind and they have left the town into the bush and forming camps. Address them, find out where did we go wrong. We know where we went wrong. Remedy those situations. First, we need to reverse every situation that is collapsing our currency. And the first remedy will be in what are all those situations that we spend our currency on. The greatest is refined petroleum product. Refined petroleum product. We need to employ local technology and local capacity in refining our petroleum product. You have to engage the citizens at the
grassroots,
at the delta, at the creeks, to refine this product for the country. Now, take for instance diesel, which is the easiest. Diesel is selling by these boys at 120 naira per liter in Akwa Ibom, in most places, whereas it is almost 300 or 250, 280 or 270 in Abuja and in other places. That is if you are buying from them. Because they are producing, they are not paying for the crude, they have this capacity, and we are not tapping into it. You know, they are selling and making their money. What about agricultural product? Now, part of the work of my office is economy diversification, working on economy diversification. And I'm working on the agricultural value chain with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Ministry of Niger Delta, with the Niger Delta Development Commission, with NISAL, with a few of the other collaborating institutions. And so what are we doing? We are getting the young men involved in agriculture, letting them know, because a lot of people were thinking that rice can only be produced in the north.
Yes.
You have a lot of rice farms coming up now in the Niger Delta area. And they are producing, although the last in the few months ago, I mean 2 months ago, we lost quite some rice because I think we didn't time well. We planted and flood came in and we had to use canoe to harvest. But we are now getting into the dry season now, where we are doing September, October planting so that we can harvest October, December, harvest October, January and process. Now, what of fishing? We are working with many groups. I must commend the governor of Bayelsa State is working well with us. The governor of Ondo State. We are working with a group called the African Atlantic Gulf of Guinea. Our job is working on the fish value chain. We're working with the University of Patras, who is teaching, who is working with us, bringing down this completely knocked down part of the trawlers to teach the children, to assemble them here, show them how to go into the waters, fish for shrimps and fish, and then bring them down. What are we spending most of our currency on? It is on importation of fish. And these fish, the Koreans, the Greeks, the others, they come into the Gulf of Guinea, fish it, take it to Europe, process it, and then sell it back to us. Yes. So this is how we're going to reverse it. And it has to be in everybody's consciousness.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you're saying all of this. But as we wrap up this, conversation, today we're talking about the Asian miracle, the Asian tigers, because they've been successful, and that's what we're making reference to them. But if you look at it, patriotism is at the core foundation of their economies. They talk about good leadership. And yesterday you were sharing a particular experience you had with the president when they brought bills for him to sign new cards. No, just quickly share that experience.
I just want to say that please, I hope this will be,
as we wrap up this conversation.
I think those countries have succeeded because of leadership and because of followership. And I want to say that leadership alone doesn't, but followership must. We talk of patriotism. We talk of the person in the person. I, as advisor on National Assembly matters, I had a big challenge because in the course of when I was accused by the Senate of stealing the budget, or that the budget was missing sometimes, I did a lot of runs and my cars collapsed. More than that, my cars collapsed. I went to Mr. President and said, Mr. President, please, the kind of job I'm doing and the stress I'm going through, please let me be given a car. Mr. President, President Mohammed said, a car from where? He said, this is about sacrifice. There was a discussion of that buying me a new car, that is buying a president a new car. And I asked them, and he said he asked them, what of the car that President Jonathan was using? What is wrong? He said, nothing is wrong, but you are a new president. And he said, he told me that in 2016, he is using the car that President Muhammadu, former President Jonathan was using. And that it's about sacrifice. And when I want to go out of the Federal Capital Territory, I should request that I will be given a car to use from the CVU. Again, sometimes I take a memo to him, and he will look at the things he wants to say, President, approve. He say, go and do the right thing. You will account to your God. We have to change first. We have to go back to production. We have to engage them, show them what to do. We have to work so that immediately they come out of university or school, they have what to do. We have to arrange them in such a manner that it's difficult to arrange somebody who has his mother to feed, whose mother and father struggle to send him to school hoping on him. He has come out. We haven't provided for them. Let us orient ourselves first, that we have to take care of their interest, and then work to orient them.
Well, thank you very much, Senator. When you talk about value reorientation, of course, it's not just about the youth, but the totality of Nigeria, because we all need that value reorientation to move forward. Thank you very much for speaking to us on this issue. And then you mentioned, the education and all of that. Actually, this is one area that we need to focus on, and that will be the next report, of course. Looking at the education sector, how well have we fared 61 years after?
Nigeria, the giant of Africa, endowed with huge natural and human resources, with provable track records of achievements in various sectors of our economy, especially the educational sector. Pride as the best in African region in terms of our curriculum, policy implementation, wealth of manpower and infrastructures, for which some countries milked from Nigeria.
People from outside other African countries were coming to our universities to study, even from outside Africa. We were able to attract even lecturers and professors from other countries, India and even Europe.
61 years after independence, these achievements in the educational sector unfortunately struggles to sustain our growth. Once a role model for other African countries, some Nigerians say that the quality of education system cannot be compared to what was obtainable in the early 60s and 70s. The big question is, where did Nigeria as a country get it wrong?
The educational system has been starved of funds. That's the germane issue. And I think another issue is the fact that those who are qualified may not have been given the position to head certain critical sectors in the educational sector. And also, political interference is a challenge where, those who are less qualified are employed simply because of political affinities.
Approving every application from every Dick, Tom and Harry to own a school is not proper, because it has brought in a very unnecessary and unhealthy competition.
We had a system that had good policies on paper but very poor implementation. And then there was no maintenance culture. The infrastructures were decaying. There was no motivation on the part of those who are teaching the teachers. Their values started continue to degrade. To the extent that sometimes people started looking down on teachers. When the politicians want to owe any sector of the economy, they find the teachers very easy to owe.
Going forward, what do Nigerians expect as solutions to the endemic?
Let the required infrastructures be provided by those in charge. Let a salary of teachers be paid. Let their promotion come on time, and when they come, conversions and so on and so forth. Provide incentives, provide a motivational issues that will help the teachers to understand that they are valued.
When it comes to appointments of executive officers in the educational sector, vice chancellors, directors, let due process be followed so that those who are qualified will get the position.
The institution of debt fund by the government as a funding agency, an intervention agency for the building up of the tertiary institution is something very positive and has helped a lot, infrastructure-wise, staff development-wise, and so on. But still, there is room for improvement.
The importance of education in a country cannot be overemphasized, reasonably because a country's growth and advancement is directly linked to our standard of education.
Still on the matter of education, Suleiman Babajia, during the course of the week, had an interview with the Executive Secretary of TED Fund, Professor Suleiman Buguro, with emphasis on the institutional and tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Let's have it.
Let me start by congratulating us, rather, for witnessing yet another independence anniversary. And looking 61 years, if we look at our, the trajectory of our development, how would you say the country has fared so far?
The valleys and the hills that we've passed through over the years. And obviously, it's a mixed bag. There's no doubt about it. Overall, we would wish that for a student, if they said the minimum pass grade is C, you would say, no, let me have a B, and why not an A grade? So I think it's a matter of opinion. But overall, I'll tell you what, we've seen nations rise and fall. Nigeria came out from acquiring independence. We've met significant achievements. I know there have been challenges for over the years, and particularly now in the context of the first thing that comes to mind is the insecurity and all that. But we've gone through similar challenges. Sometimes the the divisive tendencies within us as a people. But we definitely have more to show in terms of promise.
Well, we have more to show in terms of promise and all of that. Now, a lot has happened in the education sector since we got our independence in 1960. And today, Webmetrics ranked Ibadan as the best university in Nigeria. Now, Ibadan is not even among the first 1,000 globally. I know a lot of people have reservation the way this, details are collected to, identify which is the best. But that is certainly not a good signal for our education sector.
Webmetrics is just one of those platforms for assessing universities. The higher education, Times Higher Education, is definitely the most cited. And I can confirm to you that in that context, University of Ibadan emerged the top 500, not even 1,000. So I think I would need to correct that. And the Vice Chancellor was very clear. He announced it publicly in the presence of his management and my own team that University of Ibadan has hit the first 500. There was a time that we were struggling to have one Nigerian university, at most two, in the top 2,000 in the world. Where we have scaled over that. And I still recall he turned over to me and said, to a significant extent, it is the intervention of TED Fund that has contributed to University of Ibadan scaling up. There was a time we were in the top 2,000. We moved into the top 1,000 since 2015, and now we're in the top 500.
In 2018, it was registered that we have about 2.2 million, companies registered in the country. But as at then, only 1.4 were paying tax. Is there any collaboration, to ensuring that more people pay this tax, are brought into TaxNet, given the fact that it will only add to your budget?
You see, in Nigeria, we've had a poor tax-paying culture overall. Believe me, we've had that. And it appears to be an attitude that has clearly manifested, especially post-independence. We recall that a number of aspects of governance were sustained through tax payment pre-independence and even immediately after independence. But along the line, tax evasion, tax avoidance have become very unfortunate negative references about us as a people.
We cannot escape the question of capital flight in the country because despite the intervention from TED Fund to ensuring that we have some semblance of sanity in terms of infrastructure and all of that provided in the public institution, we still have individuals who would rather send their children abroad to study instead of just keeping them here.
Yes, there are two sides to it. One, it is very sad that many of the individuals were those that were privileged to have been trained free of charge almost completely. People of our era. And I'll tell you, yes, some with legitimate funds is possible to send one or two. It should be a matter of option rather than inescapable reality.
Now, Prof, when COVID, came around, of course, it rattled the entire world. And for us in Nigeria, it did not only expose our limitations in the health sector, but also in research and development, the R&D. We have research centers around the country with the establishment of, Center of Excellence, about 12 of them now.
Yeah.
Now, what is really the mandate of these centers? Is there short and long-term, prospect for them?
Thank you very much. First, let me start from the COVID challenge. It turned out to be a global embarrassment. It caught everybody napping. We are being mournful, so to say, in Africa. But God was so merciful that He spared Africa the heat, and the incidences of COVID have been surprisingly, pleasantly, much less. You imagine the disaster that it would have been. But we saw more of the disaster even from the most developed parts of the world. The devastating effect of COVID reminded us that no nation could run away from the reality of knowledge economy driven essentially by emphasis on R&D, research and development, not research for the sake of it, research for development, as sometimes experts would call it, research and development or research for development. For too long, we've been doing research for the sake of giving certificates, bachelor's degree, master's, PhD, and so what? What's the question? Here we are, and now when we X-rayed, we discovered, like you rightly said, specifically about R&D, when we are emphasizing the institutionalization of R&D in TED Fund, precisely why the R&D Standing Committee was put up. Knowledge economy that people talk about. Let's dissect what the knowledge economy is all about. First, I said, it is defined by research. That is why there is innovation. In fact, it's science-based research, right? Science, technology, innovation. That is why the most competitive economies, check out the top 5, the top 10 economy in the world. Go out there and you find out that what is driving the competitiveness of those nations is innovation through science and technology. And so we cannot be different. Precisely why recently TED Fund we said, no, we're not going to use our money for non-science courses, for PhD masters overseas again. Let us use the money for priority areas. Instead of somebody going to do PhD in personnel management, you wonder if that is fair when you deny somebody wanting to go do something in what? In virology, in artificial intelligence,
Yes.
Nanotechnology. We can go on and on.
What can we do really differently to ensuring that perhaps the curriculum is changed? Because these days, you chunk graduates out there and most of them are waiting for, government job, knowing fully that the government cannot provide job for all.
To be honest, yes, I agree completely with you. But you speak with the regulators, you know that they are reviewing curricula. I can go into some specifics. They are reviewing curricula, unbundling some. We used to hear of mass communication. Now it's communication in the larger context, and the various areas are coming into. They are unbundling them to make it more relevant. There are some of the curricula that emerge post-independence. 10, 20, 30 years, they have had to be reviewed. There are a number of, even in my discipline, there are a number of courses now that when some of us got exposed, going to other parts of the world, more rated universities, we came back to the faculty, came back to the university, we introduced and suggested courses. And today, what I taught at the early stage as a young lecturer, there are major changes. So I can assure you that, and you go to, there are a number of new courses emerging. Not all universities are robotically tied to the same small, finite details of curriculum. A particular university would go for, they have picked some lessons from other parts of the world, looked at some realities. That is why, for instance, there was a time when history was not being taught in the Nigerian secondary school. They took it out. But I think government recently reintroduced it. Am I right? I'm sure you guys know this more than any of us. Yes, so the curricula are being reviewed. And we, at TED Fund, we are complementing at the tertiary level. That's curricular both at secondary school and at tertiary level. We are supplementing by what we are doing in terms of what I call the problem-solving research.
My worry is accountability. How do you track these funds that to ensuring that they are not diverted?
I appreciate your question, and it is right. I am always conscious, because if I am ES of TED Fund, millions qualify to occupy that office. But it is the discretion of Mr. President to pick persons using, he has board capacity and many other factors, including knowledge of a particular person, to say, you go and do this. So I sit down and I'm reflecting, what are Nigeria's expectations? Does TED Fund have failed projects or abandoned projects? There was a time I had made it clear that we had to be associated with abandoned projects. And we have hit hard on institutions that allow projects to last so long, and that some people are almost describing them as abandoned. I can confirm to you here that we have suspended intervention of TED Fund in a number of beneficiary institutions as recent as even a few months ago. We've done that, and it's across the country. Institutions that have failed to comply with our guidelines of accountability, and specifically, for instance, where some institution, you find out the head of institution either in connivance with the financial officer or BASA, as you may call them, would apply funds meant for one project to another project. It's unacceptable. And if we send our monitors, we do forensic assessment and monitoring. And we have evidence that money meant for Project X was moved to that. That is corruption. It's not right. It's not appropriate.
I want you to talk to me as a parent, as a stakeholder in the education sector, not as ES of TED Fund now. Do you find it worrying or concerning the fact that a lot of graduates now, some graduates leave the university today, and then you question if truly they pass through the four walls of the university, given the fact that they find it even difficult to make, a sentence?
Generally, Nigerians agree that there has been significant decline in standard and quality. And precisely while the issue of access has opened space with new universities, new polytechnic, new college of education, but the tendency of Nigerians overemphasizing certificate instead of knowledge, that is the negative driving force responsible for people. They clap for them, the parents come and and celebrate. And by the time you engage them, let me just tell you this. I've seen application letters for employment by graduates that leaves you worrying if at all they benefited from the four walls of the ivory tower. The more worrisome aspect is attitudinal. Even parents do not help. Many parents don't help matters. Not all parents, but many parents. They would want to even go and influence grades for their wards and children. You better imagine that. So it's a bigger problem beyond the education sector, honestly speaking.
Now, talk to Nigerians as we celebrate 61 years anniversary as a nation. Of course, we have different challenges, but we cannot give up.
If you think a leader needs to do something differently, which is right, and the citizens have the right under conventions, international conventions, and our constitution, why not communicate it and ensure that you remain firm about it without breaking any law by communicating your position? And we've seen it happen. As recent as about a year ago, NSAS. At some point, it was like some people were saying, oh, it's all over. We've seen similar things in the past, let me be honest. But guess what? I think if the individual performers, we reflect over ourselves and say, let me do it right. The next person does it right. The other person, Nigeria will get it right. I remain positive.
All right, there you have it. I'm smiling because we have been having a very interesting conversation in the studio while that story was going on as well, because we have a young Nigerian who just joined us in the studio. She's a grassroots politician and she goes by the name Princess Zara Mustafa Audu. She's also the chairperson APC Progress Youth Forum, right?
Progressive Youth Movement.
Progressive Youth Movement. It's good to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And happy Independence.
Happy Independence Day to you and all Nigerians.
Okay, Ayuba, you want to go with the first question?
Okay, first things first. A lot of people, well, your title is kind of ambiguous, so we would want some clarification as far as your position, of course, the group and its effect in inspiring the next, how will I say, youth movement.
Okay, so the Progressive Youth Movement is made up of young Nigerians that cut across the spectrum of all aspects of life, from business people, politicians, you know, career people. And what we've tried to do is identify young people who are doing great in whatever they're doing, and also helping them to understand that it's okay for you as an individual to do well, but we need to start thinking about the collective good of the country. So we're coming together with all our different, you know, expertise, resources, finances, etc., to try and, first of all, we are, obviously you do know that I belong to the APC, but the group isn't just, some people within the group are not even necessarily politicians, they're just young Nigerians who mean well for the country. So what we are trying to do, first of all, is, like, you know, everyone knows, for you to have any say politically, you must belong to a political party. If not, you're just you're an activist who's just speaking from the sidelines, who cannot actually make any positive difference. You must belong to a political party.
Over the years, we know that we have this challenge with Nigerian youths in the sense that they always find it difficult to break that ceiling, you know, to find themselves in leadership position. And sometimes back, I know we have this not too young to run, I mean, act now, because it's now an act. Do you think that Nigerian youths are ready to take up a leadership position?
I think it's funny when we say Nigerian youth, because many of us now who are, you know, vying for one position or the other, honestly, we can't really call ourselves youth. I'll use myself as an example. I have an 11-year-old. I have 3 children. So I don't know how young, this term youth is, but I would say the younger generation of Nigerians who are now ready to take position, I feel we are ready, to be honest, because we've excelled in every other capacity. The entire private sector is being held by this generation of Nigerians.
Okay.
The entire private sector, to be honest with you. In fact, even if you look abroad, majority of the Nigerians, say for instance in America, there was a 30-something-year-old who was, several young Nigerians have been infused into very powerful positions across the globe. So I know that this generation has the answers to our problems. I don't believe that we can walk in isolation of the elder generation, but I feel that it must be an infusion between this generation and that generation to actually achieve the Nigeria of our dreams.
Okay, so far, what would you say are the kinks you have worked out in that regard, especially in reference to your political party?
Like everything that you want to do, you will face challenges. In fact, sometimes you face challenges from even people within your own generation. You'll be surprised that people that you think you should be working with, people you think you're fighting for, are the ones who would at first fight you, because change is uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable, even if it's for your own good. I was told a story not too long ago, during the summer break. I went to an African country, and I was told it was Côte d'Ivoire, and I was told it took only 5 men to change the narrative. That's before the war that they had.
Wow.
And now, and today, the country is beautiful, it's excelling, it's working. So the truth about it, yes, it's a lot smaller than Nigeria, but believe you me, if we can identify 20 people, 20 young people who are patriotic, truly patriotic, country first. Yes, we all want to excel. There's nobody who doesn't want to succeed or live a good life.
Definitely.
But living a good life should not be at the expense of destroying the country. That's the truth. We need to be realistic with ourselves. You can excel while also doing the right thing. It's not one or the other. And as young people, we must show more capacity. It's not okay to constantly, most young people are a burden even to the leaders. Each time you're going there, you're going cap in hand to beg for something. It's embarrassing to our entire generation. We need to start thinking outside the box. Be a solution provider, not a constant, an aid receiver. Every time you go, you need something. How about being a solution provider? It's different if you're providing a service and you're being paid for it.
You have to contribute something to, move this nation forward. And this cake is actually a contribution of Classic Cakes and Deco here in Karu, Abuja. We say thank you. And Princess is still here with us, so you just help us cut the cake together. And what we are going to do to celebrate our unity, our independence, Nigeria's 61 now. So let's just cut the cake together. All right?
Okay.
Ayuba,
Okay.
let's go. Together.
Happy birthday, Nigeria.
Happy birthday, Nigeria.
Happy
And that's so
birthday,
much we can
Nigeria.
take on the show today. We see you bright and early tomorrow. We say bye for now.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Princess.
you so much.
Okay, stay with us. No, stay with us.